Ladies and gentlemen, today is August 31st, 2016, and this is the KNKL Show, episode 308, where we learn to be better artists. My name is Kienan Lafferty, and I would like to welcome you to another show. Today we are going to be talking about sketch painting. Paint sketching. Now, what the heck could that possibly mean? Well, let's take a look over here at this piece of mica that we did last week. We're going to be talking about how you can quickly lay together paintings and study colors and lighting, right? Here's another example with our character, Cardinal. Actually, this is not our character. This is the character of one of my students, Cardinal, who he so nicely was willing to let me paint. And I'm going to be talking to you guys today about how we actually go through and start these sketches off, right? Because if we take all these layers off, if we take all these OP layers off, you'll notice that we actually start with very simple line art. Now, contrary to the popular kind of lessons that I usually teach you guys, I usually tell you guys to kind of clean up your artwork first. Clean up your artwork. Well, that is not necessarily the case anymore because I'm going to teach you guys a really cool way that you can quickly lay together lines such as this and then eventually take it to this point, right? And have it look all nice. We're talking about color. We're focusing on choosing colors, making colors look good. But before we get into that, we need to take a stroll down a very special place. So journey with me, if you will, to facebook.com. Or just type in that tiny URL /KNKL fanart and click on this cryptic link right here. Don't tell anybody about this, because if you click on this, then you will be dazzled by the amazing artworks that have been submitted by you guys out there. And if you haven't joined us yet, then just go to this thing, like the page, submit your art, and you could be featured on next week's show. That could be scrolling on by. And there's actually some really nice ones. Ooh, like that mica, by the way. Really awesome mica art. I love fan art of mica. That just makes my day. Makes my day every time. So yes, that is going to call it good for the love of the lane. Let's go ahead and get into today's tutorial. We got a lot to talk about, okay? We got a lot to talk about. I'm just letting you know, warning you ahead of time that today is going to be a little bit long, okay? So the first thing that I want to do today is let's talk about the Cardinal piece. And let me actually walk you through. Let me walk you through this time lapse really quickly. And then we're going to go ahead and do a new character real time. Yay, isn't that awesome? I'm actually going to teach you everything. I'm going to teach you everything in one go, not just like, hey, let's examine some layers and then like, yeah, go have fun. No, I'm going to show you guys real time how to actually put one of these together, and you're going to pay attention, okay? So sit back, get some popcorn or something, because you're going to be sitting here for a little while, okay? So let's go ahead and pause this right here. Okay, so the first thing that I want you guys to notice is step one. Step one, what we did was we created that simple, very, very simple line art. Step two is we're putting in our masks, and you'll notice, oh my gosh, they're manual masks. But Keenan, you said never to do manual masks. Well, we're breaking all the rules today, guys, because everything I've taught you up until this point has been wrong. Well, not necessarily, but for this new thing, we're doing a completely new technique, which is really fun. Okay, so you can see over here, direct your attention down to the layers. We have our regular mask, as we usually do. We set up the silhouette mask, then we have hair and skin. And you want to make sure that you're separating out each of your colors or materials onto different layers, because that's going to come in really handy for when you start doing this. See, we're already starting to lay in our lights and starting to pick out our colors. Now, color picking, I know this is a hard thing to do because I'd be saying, well, how do I know what colors to pick? Don't worry, I'm going to teach you guys about that too. The most important thing is that you understand what color your background is going to be, right? And in this case, it's gray. So it's really easy to have all of your shadows, right, eventually turn towards gray. And you can see and we have like a really warm, hot light towards the top, which is our yellow. And that is really fun because when you start putting that in, then we can start to see how I put like that reflected light on the bottom of the face. This is what I really feel that this technique is really handy for, because you can sort of plan out or choose your colors so early on. And also, I really feel that it gives you a chance to sculpt the face the way that you want it the first time. Whereas constantly, I will draw a face that I like in the line art phase. I'll draw a face that I really like. And then as I go into the overpaints and sort of the refinement, I'm always comparing back and forth between the two. And I'm always trying to make the face look like the original line art face. But here, we don't even necessarily really have a line art face to compare to. So we're free to sculpt and create the face that we like in the color phase. And by the time we do it here, it's like we're basically like 90% of the way done. And then you just throw on some overpaints. Really I really feel that this is a free style of painting, more freestyle, which is why I call it paint sketching. And that's what we're going to be focusing on now. Okay, so now you've seen the time lapse. I know you didn't learn anything from that, but that's okay because we're going to do this real time, people. We're going to do this real time. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I want you guys to do is I want you to create a new document, and you're curious what my dimensions are, I hear you asking. Well, they're none other than 9 by 9, 300 DPI. The reason why I chose those is because it works really well for Instagram, right? Having that nice little square setup, and 300 DPI is just good for print. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're just going to start sketching, freely sketching a face, right? And we'll keep this nice and close. We'll keep this nice and close because we want to focus on more so on our actual character, right? We don't want to like do like a crazy like huge background, like super detailed and everything. We're focusing on just a face, maybe a little bit of neck, right? This is more like just kind of like going down the neck, a little bit of shoulder, right? We just want to focus on a character today, guys. And this is what I want you to do at home. So pay attention. This is the part where you got your popcorn, you're eating and you're watching, and hopefully you're having a good time. Okay, so don't get too carried away with your line art, okay? I want you guys to just be a little bit subtle on this, okay? Just kind of lay in something that you like, okay? So let's try something like this. And here's another thing that I'm gonna show you guys, right? Because we're doing this real time, I can already tell that I'm not really liking this sketch. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna go ahead and make a new layer. We're gonna get rid of that one. Because a really important thing that you guys should know is that my sketches don't always work out. My sketches don't always work out the first time. So let's go ahead and start our second sketch. Okay, so I want to do something more like this. I think I know what I'm wanting to do here now. I really want to sketch, there's this fire girl that I have. I know, really original, right? I have a pink-haired maid girl, and then I have this girl that's like a fire elemental. And we're going to draw her today, okay? So I imagine that she has like these markings. I think it would be cool if she had like little markings right here. And then we'll just kind of keep it simple like this. Have some eyes like that. See, already we're like having a lot more character show through. But notice how it's still very, very simple. Very, very simple, right? We don't want to get carried away, okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to bring the chin down just a little bit more, so that way we have something a little bit more nice looking. She's supposed to be a little bit older. Right now she's looking a little bit more like Emma. Right, so, and another way that we can do that is we can shrink down the eyes, right? So very, very just loosely just playing around with this stuff, okay? Don't worry about any of this crap. Don't worry about any of this crap looking too proper because we're going to be doing a lot more of that sculpting and refinement in the painting stage, okay? So let's go ahead and do this. I'll keep this part really simple. Just give her like this little choker thing and then a shirt or something like that, okay? Cool, and see how close we are to the character? This is gonna be really, really good for the colors that we're going to be experimenting with today, okay? Okay, and then she's got like this hair that kind of comes out like that. That's good. And we'll drop this down just a little bit because her hair is really what makes her awesome, and I don't want to lose too much of that. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. And yeah, it's looking much better, much better. Cool. Yeah, I like that. Let's go ahead and refine this face a little bit more. Ah! See, cutting that in looks really nice. All right, now we have a cute little anime girl to get started with, right? Cute anime girl. We've got a good start. Okay? Excellent, people. Excellent. Okay, let's move on. So you saw how fast I put together that sketch. I want you guys to be doing that same thing at home, okay? Don't worry too much about this stuff, okay? Don't worry too much about making everything look perfect. You just want to get a general idea. General idea. Okay? Now let's go ahead and darken down that line art real quick. So I just hit Control-U, darken that down, and let's go ahead and begin our manual masking. Manual masking, the one thing that I told you guys never to do, we're doing today. Okay? And actually, I mean, I'm taking a lot of time to pick this color. It doesn't really matter what the color this is. I want you guys to just throw this in really quickly. Okay? Throw that in. Okay? And you can either do it with your chalk brush like I'm doing here. Doesn't really matter what brush you choose. You just want to get a general silhouette of your character going. Okay? There we go. Looking good, looking good. I know this is really boring to watch. But trust me, it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it when we're done, okay? So, the next thing that we need to do, and this is very imperative, is you need to choose your background color. Now, if you're just getting started with this, I would recommend that you guys just stick with a gray because it's going to be really easy to make your shadows. But here on the KNKL show, we like to do things the hard way, right? So, we're going to choose a color that is a little bit strange today. We're going to choose a cool color. Okay, so let's do like this blue. I think this blue is going to look really nice. Okay, so let's go ahead and lay in that blue. Oh, that already looks really cool. Oh, whoops. Hang on. Let me go ahead and save this out. Make sure I didn't pull up anything. Yes, for once, I pulled up a menu and it didn't show off anything that I wasn't supposed to show. That makes me so happy. Okay, anyway. So now that that's saved, we can hit our Control S, right? Which everybody should be doing. That's good habits. It's good habits. And I'm fixing my hair because it's getting really sweaty in here. It's getting hot. I got the AC cranked up full blast, but it is still really hot. And now we're going to go ahead and start blocking out our different masks. So let's create a new layer, right? And the shortcut for that is Shift Control N. Okay. We're going to clip this back. Clipping this back by holding Alt. You're holding Alt and clicking between these two layers. Down here, people. Down here, click between those two layers. Now what I want you to do is start laying in skin, okay? Now pay close attention to the color that I chose for the skin. Why did I not choose like, okay, well, the local color of her skin is sort of like a tan color, right? So actually, well, I guess it's kind of close. So why am I not painting this color? Well, actually, technically could. I guess it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter right now because we're just masking things out. And then we're going to be experimenting with color. But this is actually more of like a cooler color. See how this is moving more towards purple? This is because of the redness of the skin, or like the liveliness of the skin, red, mixing with the blue of the background. And that creates a little bit more of a purple texture. Okay? So let's go ahead and lay that in. Maybe I'll mix these two together. Find something that we like. Okay. Cool. All right. So we're off to a good start. I'm going to go ahead and, actually, I like that little bit of like color mixture in there, even though we're just kind of blocking this stuff in. And I totally painted this on the wrong layer. But you know what? That's okay. That is okay because we're prepared for that type of stuff here. So let's go ahead and move on to the hair, okay? Now the hair is really cool because it's like this bright red, or it's just like a very, very deep red. Almost, and then it'll kind of go to orange on the tips. At least this is from what I can remember. This is literally something I drew when I was like 14, okay? So I'm just going off of memory. Okay, so now we're actually working on our own layer, okay? Doesn't matter so much that we painted the skin on the layer of the mask because, well, it's still technically separated, okay? The skin is now just the first layer. Okay, so let's go ahead and throw in the hair. Beautiful. Beautiful. And then we can go ahead and fill in the skin where we may have missed it along the edges. Okay? Off to a good start. Now what color is her shirt gonna be, you ask? Well, none other than orange. So, but notice how I didn't pick orange. I picked red, right? Because I'm thinking about how the hue is shifting, right? Like our local color is here, right? But our hue shift is going to move it more towards here for orange. Okay? More like this for orange. Shit. Go ahead and put the shirt on. That actually sounds kind of bad, sorry. That sounded kind of naughty. Let's put the shirt on. And actually, I like the way that other one looked. That looks really good. Okay, this skin, I kind of want to hue shift this now. So I'm hitting Control U, and I'm going to hue shift this a little bit more towards tan, and I'm going to darken it and saturate it a little bit more. Okay, let's go ahead and make a new layer for the eyes. The eyes. And now, this is a good example of, hey, what color are the eyes? Are they white? No, they're not, silly. No, because our background, our ambient color is blue. So actually, all whites in this picture are going to be replaced with blue, okay? Okay, does that make sense? So all colors are going to be moving towards blue. And this is why it's important that you guys chose your background color first off. Okay, let's move on to the iris. What color is the iris going to be? Well, because all anime girls, their eyes must match the same color as their hair, okay? So her eyes are going to be red as well, okay? And then boom, there you go. Oh, isn't that awesome? Okay, so now that you've done the hard part, now that you've laid out your mask, now it's time to start choosing your light sources, okay? So you have everything separated onto its own layer, okay? That's the hard part. Now it's time to start having some fun. So let's go ahead and pick all of these layers, select all these layers. I'm gonna give this a little bit more room so that we can see. Let's go ahead and move this up a little bit more. There we go. And I want you to lock all of these layers by clicking that checkerboard icon right here. You're gonna lock all of those layers, and now you're gonna be free to begin painting in your lights, okay? So you're gonna start with one thing at a time. One thing at a time, okay? And let's start with the skin. So let's see. There's a lot of different ways that we could light this skin. Now, namely, we could choose to light it from the top. And in that case, we would have something like this. A really easy way to start doing that is, hey, let's start laying in some lights on the top. Where are all the planes of the face that are facing upwards, right? And that's gonna be like the cheeks, right? And then you'll have something kind of like this, right? Don't forget about the divot of the eyebrow, so we're gonna have shadow there. See, and now you're starting to really, really loosely lay in your lights. And this is really cool because you can ask yourself, okay, do I like this light? Maybe I want something else. Let's go ahead and duplicate this, and let's try another type of light, okay? So let's go ahead and lock this, fill it. So I duplicated that layer just by hitting Control J. So now you can see we have another skin layer, basically another silhouette layer too, but that's okay. That's okay. It's okay, don't worry, don't stress. Don't stress. Okay, let's try another lighting source. Let's see, how about from the side? So let's go ahead and light this thing from the side. Let's go ahead and lay that in. So we're gonna have like light there. We're gonna have a little bit of light getting caught like right there. And see how cool this is? See how quickly you can lay in an idea? And I actually really like this. I really like this a lot. So I think we're gonna roll with this, people. We're gonna roll with the side light today. Okay, so here's the main things that you want to keep in mind with your skin, okay? So I want you guys to focus on always considering your ambient light, okay? Now that is the most important thing that I can tell you today. Now, what the heck does that even mean, okay? So when we first started painting in this skin, we moved it already towards purple, right? But our local color, AKA the color when the light is shining on it, is gonna be like this tan color, right? But that's not the color that we're choosing here. You see, and I want you guys to pay attention specifically to the hue shift. See how we're moving towards purple? That's because the blue light is mixing with it, okay? But it is going to mix with it even more, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and do it like this, okay? We're moving more towards blue, and we're going to desaturate like this, okay? And then what's gonna happen is on the edges of your shadows, you're gonna have something like this. Now see, this is the really cool part, guys, because now your character is gonna start looking like it's belonging in the background. This is because you're putting more of that ambient light into your shadows, okay? Now, so I'm just putting it here, right? And the direction of this light is all around, basically, but you'll see more of it along the edges because it's more like reflective. The skin is more reflective as it turns away from you, okay? You could even go as crazy as to like lay in some like super hot like blues like this, right? And they're like this, okay? So that's a good start, guys. That's a good start. So you've got that blue in there. Got that blue in there. And it can also have a general direction, like it can be coming from the top, so a little bit of blue is gonna affect there and there. Okay, so you're mixing colors, guys. You're doing good. You're doing a good job. But now we gotta get back to this. We gotta get back to this tan skin, okay? So let's go ahead and hue shift this more towards yellow, because in this case, I'm thinking that this is going to be a warm light, okay? This is a very warm light. So I want to shift this slightly more towards yellow, maybe more like this. Ah, yes, that looks good. Okay, that looks actually very, very fine and dandy. And I'm really liking this orange in here. This orange right here looks really, this is what I call tasty. It's a tasty color. Now this is a bit of an accident, right? You can call it a happy accident. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that now. Because this technique is very reliant on experimentation. And as you experiment with these colors, you'll find some relationships, such as, hey, I really like how this orange blends towards this Like, pay attention to like what's happening. I want you to go back in and study these relationships. Study what's happening. Why do you like this orange going to this kind of this desaturated purple? Why do you like that? Well, it's because there's a hue shift, right? And it's representing how the skin is interacting not only with the key light source, which is our bright yellow light from the side, but also our ambient light source from the left and the blues in the background. Okay? Now, most importantly is that we also need to, this is also more so like simulating subsurface scattering, but I think that we can do an even better job. Okay? Now, the way that we're going to do this, the best way that I've found to do this, is to select the color right between your transition. So sort of like right here. And what you're going to do is you're going to move it to the right, which is going to saturate it, okay? Now this is going to create what we call the color boomerang, which is light starting desaturated, right? And then it moves to a saturated state, and then it goes back desaturated. And if you're curious about what the heck I'm talking about, then fear not, because I did a whole tutorial on it, and you can click right here to go back a few weeks and we'll talk about the color boomerang. Okay, but right now we're talking about this. Okay, so I'm gonna lay in a nice bright light right there. Looks good. Okay, so but yeah, just in a nutshell, let me show you guys. So see how we're desaturated? That means that we're to the left. We're to the left and we're bright. Okay, then right here we go saturate. We're darkening, but we're moving slightly to the right. And then as we go to the shadow, see how we went back to desaturated? We're going down like this, and we're creating a boomerang effect, right? So up, right? Then we move to the right, and then we go back desaturated, and then majorly desaturated over here. That is the color boomerang, ladies and gentlemen, and it looks awesome. It looks awesome, and everybody should do it. So get to it. All right, guys, so here is I'm going to basically play the prediction. I have the crystal ball in front of me, and I know where you're going to struggle with this. I know the parts that you're going to struggle when you do this technique. And that is that you are going to run into some points where you're not putting in enough dark values, okay? You don't want to forget about your darker values. So make sure to lay some of those in, right? And specifically key areas, such as like the eye sockets, right? Underneath the eyebrows, underneath the chin, right? You want to make sure that you're not forgetting about that stuff. And don't worry so much about how the face is kind of coming together, because all that stuff is subject to change, right? As we start going into the overpainting stage, okay? So I'm laying in some color around, I'm laying in a little bit of color around the hair shape as well, because this is our ambient occlusion, right? It's the cast shadow of the hair on the face, okay? Now, let's move on to the hair. So the hair is gonna have a very similar thing happening. I personally really like to start with that ambient color affecting the shadows, right? So the first thing that I usually do is I'll lay in this color. I'll lay in the color of the background, right? Mixing in a little bit more of that blue to start, okay? Then what I do is I really like to punch the heck out of the hair, right? Or in this case, the key light, which is going to be our hair. Okay, so let's go ahead and choose like this really bright red. Boom, look at that. Doesn't that look awesome? And you can go ahead and just lay in those really hot spots of color. And see, this is where it gets really, really fun, guys. I love this stuff. Love this stuff. And this is why this is so much fun to do, because it allows you to experiment and it gets you an idea of where you're going so early. That's why I'm a big fan of this. And it allows you to change things on the fly. You can very quickly see where your picture is going, and if it's going off course, you can correct it. And I actually want this to go more towards this color. It's going a little bit too orangey. I want it to be more like this color. Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. All right, let's do the iris. Okay, iris. So we know that wherever the light is coming from, we know that the iris, the opposite side, is going to be lit, because we know that irises are like a satellite dish, okay? They're like a satellite dish, which basically means, right, the light is hitting the opposite side, right? Light comes this way, right? And then it's going to bounce off of this side. See, here's the satellite dish. It bounces off of this side of the satellite dish, okay? It doesn't bounce off of this side. No. Do not make the mistake of bouncing it off the same side as the light is coming. That's wrong. Do not do that. I will find you if you do that, okay? So, satellite dish technique. Okay, so good. Lovely. Lovely. Let's move on to here. There's not going to be as much light being caught over here. And contrary to popular belief, the eyes, in fact, do need to be shaded. So let's make sure that we shade these eyes as well. Ooh, that actually looks really cool. Using that sort of like that red in there. That looks awesome. Let's go ahead and add in a little bit more darkness in there. Lovely, lovely. And we're gonna have a little bit of warm light happening on these eyes as well, right? So we're gonna get a little bit of this action happening. Okay, there we go. Now you have a good mix of color, people. Let's see, what else did I want to do? I feel like, those painting marks on her cheeks, we didn't actually do those. Let's go ahead and add those in. I gotta figure out what color I actually want these to be. Do I want them to be red? Actually, red looks pretty cool. Yeah, the red actually looks really good. All right, well, that was easy. Love it when stuff just comes together like that. Okay, so now we are getting to a point where we're about ready. We're about ready to move into the next point. But I would say that we need to kick up this contrast just a little bit. And luckily, we have a tool that is built just for that. Just for that. And it's in Adjustments Contrast. And you can just go in there. You can mess around with the skin until it looks about what you're looking for. Now, I want her skin to be slightly darker, right? Because I want her to be a little bit more tan. So this is looking good right here. Okay, now I'm going to add in one more shot of color on the skin, right? To really just blow this out. Really want this skin to be blown out on the edges. And what that means is I'm just heightening the contrast, right? I'm just adding in a lighter color so that way the light, similar to what's happening with the hair, do you see how big of a jump there is between this red towards this shadow? There's a lot of contrast there. There's a big movement that's happening. So we have to do a similar thing with the skin, right? Because see, now we have a jump from here to here, major jump in the skin. But if we lower the contrast, and this is just for example, do you see how as we lower the contrast, it starts to not look the same. It starts to see, oh, here's a good example. Okay, so see how now there's not as much contrast? See how the jump is now from here to here? See how we're only moving a little bit? Now it looks a little bit out of place. It doesn't look like the same light is affecting both our skin and our hair. So that is what I want you guys to keep in mind. Keep in mind your contrast. If you're having harsh changes between your lights and shadows, make sure that is being reflected in the rest of your piece. And you'll be happy, okay? So we're about ready to move on to our overpainting. Overpainting, people. We're gonna have some good times with that. But first, we gotta color some lines. Now you guys are very familiar with coloring lines because we've done this many times before. We're gonna do it again, okay? So basically all this means is that we're going in there and we're beginning to color our lines to prep them for overpainting, softening them. So a good example is in the skin. I really like to paint my skin lines more of a lighter red. Now pay attention here. I'll do this just to exaggerate what's happening. If I chose this blue and I started painting this in, you see how it paints all of my lines blue, right? But in this case, I'm just gonna paint it a slightly lighter red, okay? Now notice, see how it softens the lines? This is gonna come in really handy for what we're gonna do next, and that is overpainting. Overpainting, yay! We love overpainting. We're gonna go ahead and just do that, soften those lines, soften that line, soften them lines, soften those lines. Okay, and over here, I think we can go a little bit darker, right? Because now we're dealing with shadows. Over here. And we're kind of doing something like this. Okay, so guys, the next thing that I want to tell you about, and this is going to harken back to what I said earlier, is this is the problem I know you're going to have. And that is that you may run into problems when you're trying to put in darker values, right? Because you might want to paint your lines and then eventually your piece kind of looks like this, right? It's like, oh, it's all like really bright. Like there's not enough dark values in there. We need more dark values. And the way that you're going to do that is you're going to create one more layer behind the lines or in front of the lines. Doesn't really matter. Let's just call this dark value. And let's get in there really quickly before we move into the overpaints. And let's start laying in some of those darker values. pick out some of these darker values. Now this is really to help differentiate what's happening in the piece, okay? So just kind of laying them in there. I don't really have an exact formula for this yet, other than make sure that it separates your materials, right? So say between the hair and the skin, you want to have a nice separation. I'm talking about this line. We're talking the differences in values, people, okay? So making sure that there's a difference between, like, say, this shape. See how this shape is one value, and then the skin is lighter, right? So now we have, technically, a line. But see how it doesn't, there's not like a line going through right there? You're focusing on that, adding in those dark values so that way lines can be created, okay? Because eventually, once we paint this, no lines are going to exist at all, okay? So let's move on. Let's continue because we still got a little bit to do, a little bit more to go. In fact, actually, I think a better way to do this is let's just go straight into overpainting because that was the point of this. The point of this is that we're supposed to be able to go to overpainting really quickly. Let's go ahead and hit Control S. Let's save it. And let's move into our darker values, people. Okay, so laying in those darker values. Where do we want those darker values to be? Well, first of all, we want them to be in the eyes, right? So let's go ahead and lay some darker values in the eyes, okay? And then also on the nose, okay? So let's go ahead and lay in a little bit there. Let's figure out exactly how this nose is gonna look now because we have some colors in place. We have colors in place and we like the way they look, but now we have to really go in there and define what this nose is gonna look like, okay? And I'm a fan of like the simple anime nose, but I also like to make it look semi-realistic too, right? So let's go ahead and drop this in. Let's see if we can make this look realistic without making it look too creepy. Maybe something like this. Let's go ahead and put that a little bit more shadow there, or a little bit more of that light there. Looks good. We're also gonna have some reflected light. Let's not forget about the reflected light on the side of the nose. All right, cool. And now this is the point where you are really just starting to define what your exactly what your character is going to look like, okay? So that is adding in the darker values, adding in those darker values, okay? Painting away these lines, painting away these lines. I know I repeat everything I say. That's just what I do when I'm trying to teach, okay? It's tough. It's tough. You try doing it. You try doing it. You might have a hard time talking yourself. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the mouth. All right, move on to the mouth here. We can paint in a little bit of light right there. Let's put in a little bit of value right there. I don't like to make the lips like too crazy on the girls, right? Because it's nice to just keep them simple. Most of the time, it's just nice to keep that stuff simple. And the cool thing is that as we go through here and do this, we can click on and off the OP layer. And we can ask ourselves, okay, are we moving closer to our target or are we moving further away? Right? I like the simplicity of this mouth. Let's not lose that. I like simplicity on the mouth. Okay. Let's go ahead and lay in some brighter colors here, or some subsurface happening on the ear there. Let's put in some more brighter colors for the hair. Let's see here. Let's try some of this. That looks good. Yeah, a little bit of that. Still not fully liking the way that nose is looking. I think we tried to redraw it too much. We tried to repaint it a little bit too much. But again, all this stuff is this is for you to experiment with. All this stuff is for you to experiment with. I'm just teaching you a new thing that I found out. I mean, I'm sure other people have done it way better than me and it's been discovered before, but I just now happened upon it and now I must teach everybody. I must teach everybody within my circle of influence. That is the KNKL show. So we're just laying that in there. Okay. Yeah. You know what? Simple most of the time just does it. Simple does it. Easy does it. Okay, I really want to define the edge of this face because this is going to be the most important thing that we do, I'm sure. Let's go ahead and paint this. Look, I'm painting in the background. I'm actually painting the background color. And notice how I'm working right now. Notice the scale that I'm working at. Notice how I'm not zoomed in. I'm not zoomed in trying to pull out all these little details, right? I'm not trying to like paint these eyelids in or any of that stuff. Right now, all I'm doing is I'm zoomed out really, really far. And another good thing to do is we can also flip the canvas, right? And we can do this stuff. We can then view the face from a different angle, which is very important, right? Viewing the face from a different angle. We can add in a little bit of color on the eyelashes, right? A little bit of color on dim eyelashes. Yeah, that looks cool. And kind of, whoops. Add in a little bit more color there. See how we like that. Yeah, that's looking pretty dang cool. I want to add in some more blush here, a little bit more of a darker value on the cheeks. All right, see, and then look, I'm just mixing those colors in, mixing that stuff in, mixing it up. You want to get your mix-ups, guys. For those of you who play fighting games, you know how important mix-ups are. Okay, so don't forget it. Don't forget it. Let's go ahead and cut that in. Yeah, see, now our character is starting to come to life. We're liking that very, very much. All right. Now, another thing that I want you guys to pay attention to is making broad, bold strokes with your color, okay? I want you guys to feel free to get in there and make those broad strokes, especially around these hair pieces, right? Get in there and do some crazy stuff. Get in there and do some crazy stuff. And then also consider, let's see here. Well, I guess it's not really too crazy here, but you can go in there and like start adding in extra strands of hair, right? Get in there and get a little crazy with it. Get loose with it, you know what I mean? Add in those darker values. Don't forget about your darker values. See right over here? This is a nice spot. Right here. This is a good dark value. Let's go ahead and grab that. Let's put that in a little bit more, in a couple more areas. Maybe say here, a little bit there, a little bit there. That's good. And then blend it. Blend it. Blend. All right, but not forgetting about your skylight, or rather your ambient light. And then here's the other cool thing, guys, is that another reason why I like this is because you might encounter something like this, where you're drawing or you're painting in your colors and you're like, I feel like this needs to be more saturated. I feel like it's a little bit muddy here. I want something else to be happening there. And then I want you to feel free to just grab the color. Grab the color that you're imagining, right? If it's more saturated, then just move it there, right? Just move it there and then drop it in, right? Just slap that sucker right in there, right? And then pay attention to how it affects your piece. It's like, oh, I actually really like that splash of color. Let's just run with that. I like it there. I like it like that. See, because then it allows you to kind of have these cool like mixtures, right? So now you're going from like this red to like this purple, right? See, so it's like this orange to this red to this purple, and then back to this desaturated purple, right? And those types of relationships are really what makes your pieces look awesome. Look awesome. So get out there and experiment. Experiment and have fun. All right, guys, so we're going to be finishing this up pretty soon. And if you're curious about taking a look at this for yourself, if you want to download the PSD, then fear not, that is going to be available at the end of the show. Yeah, I'm liking that a lot. It's looking pretty dang cute. Pretty dang cute. I want a little bit more darker values right there. Yeah. Liking that. Liking that. Let's go ahead and kind of fill this in. Another thing that I really like to do is, even though this is an anime character, I like to envision their tear ducts, right? Like, where are their actual tear ducts? So it's pretty easy. Just kind of create those little triangles right there. Maybe have a little bit of light getting caught on it, right? Like that. Looks cool. I like it. Yeah, a little bit of light getting caught right there. Makes all the difference. Makes all the difference in the world. All right, yeah. That looks good. Okay, so now we're just getting into, really, if you were to watch this anymore, it's really just going to be me like sitting here experimenting with stuff. And the lesson has been taught, which means it's time for some question catapults. Cast them. All right, questions coming in. Let's see what we got here. Specific Brush is asking how to overcome the I can't do this frustration. Specific Brush asks, hello Keenan and dear art people. Recently started having frustrations about painting because I rarely paint. I want to paint better, choose the right colors and stuff. Hey, by the way, I did look at this question before I started today, and this tutorial was for you, Specific Brush. Learning about colors, learning about, because I too was like, oh man, this is like a new technique. Can I like actually teach people this? Oh, what if it looks bad? Oh no. And of course, I was having these same frustrations. Can I actually do this? And so let me answer your question. Let me make sure I'm just not missing anything. Worked for over an hour, stopped to look at my piece. It looks dull, smudgy. I don't know how to imagine a piece from the start. Lay down values. Okay, so yeah, totally Specific Brush. I get what you're asking, and I'll be happy to answer. Okay, so the best thing that you can do is understand that even if it sucks, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter because, first of all, it's like your art is for you, right? You say that you're creating it for other people, but you're really not. It's really all for you. It's your journey, it's your experience, it's your skill. And the reason why I say that nobody cares is because everybody has their own lives to live. Everybody, like, they're gonna look at your piece, and even if they say, oh man, that piece sucks, right? It's like they're literally gonna be distracted by something else in about 5 seconds. And that's why it's important that you understand that, yes, negative criticism can hurt, and right? It sucks hearing that you can improve and that you're not as smart as you wish you were, but it is a blessing in disguise because you need to understand that that is the point where you get to say, hey, this person was honest enough to say that I sucked. I'm honest enough to tell myself that I suck. And now I can look at how to improve, right? Am I gonna read a book on the subject? Am I gonna watch a tutorial online about the subject? Am I gonna go to school for the subject? Am I gonna talk to somebody who knows how to do what I'm trying to do and ask them how they do it, right? And then you can begin improvement and begin engaging in progress. And progress is the magical thing that makes everybody happy. So don't feel too bad about that, Specific Brush. Understand that frustration and the anxiety and the nervousness comes specifically when you are about to do something that you've never done before, something that you're not comfortable with, right? i.e. basically me doing today's show, right? I was really uncomfortable with doing this today. But look, it turned out okay. It turned out all right. It's not bad. Could it have been better? Yeah, of course it could have been better, but it's tough. It's tough teaching this and doing it at the same time, explaining what I'm doing. And there's so many things that are going on through my head while I'm trying to do this. But the important thing is that I did it, right? Whereas a lot of other people may not have done it. And then we will never be blessed by their amazing tutorial. Their tutorial will never be seen by the light of day, right? And people can't criticize it, right? People can't say that it's dumb, and they're saved from that. They're saved from that. But the unfortunate thing is that now they can't grow. So take pride in that, Specific. Take pride in the fact that you can admit to yourself that you need to improve. And then take the next step and figure out how you can do it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. So, well, out of the way, I would like to say that if you want to download today's PSD, as well as all the other PSDs from the past, then just go ahead and click on this picture and take you over to Patreon. You can support the show, get all kinds of cool stuff, download unreleased footage of me making mess-ups and bloopers of the show, as well as PSDs and all that other cool stuff. And last thing I would like to do is say thank you to my amazing sponsors! Laura Bashir, David Chiariello, Marvin Seo, Matthew Silva, Ilian, the fantastical cat, Megan Gwynn, and Ian Crowell. Thank you guys so much for keeping me healthy. Oh, and thank you to my sponsors of the past. The show would not be possible without you guys. And thank you to everyone who has been watching the show. Thank you so much to everyone who's been supporting on Patreon. It really means a lot that you guys support me, allow me to be able to do something that I love and make a living doing it. Yeah, and with all that out of the way, we're going to end today's show. So yeah, you guys take care of yourselves. I'll see you guys next week. And until then, you guys take care. See ya.